What's going on, guys? My name is Doug. For those of you that don't know, welcome to the video. Very happy that you guys decided to stop by today. And this was kind of a surprise drop for me. I really had no idea that this was coming, so I'm very happy to be able to say that today we're listening to a new young Nudy project called Anyways. It's 58 minutes long. It's about 16 tracks long. I say about, but that's exactly how many tracks long it is. Really, I'm not going into it expecting anything too insane. You know, with 16 tracks, I am expecting for there to be a few disappointing songs right out of the gate. You know, with 16 tracks, there's bound to be a few throwaways in there. But for the most part, I'm expecting some really cool vibes, some really fire beats, some interesting performances from young Nudy. And like I said, nothing too crazy, but something really enjoyable. You know, that's really what I'm just expecting. And if we get anything more than that, it's a really nice plus. It's a really nice bonus. I was going to listen to this on my own time and just choose my favorite tracks and do a video on that. But with a lot of these young Nudy projects, you guys really like seeing the first reactions and the initial breakdowns for them. So I didn't even put out a poll. I just decided to do the whole thing. And so now that that has all been introduced and you know, you guys know what we're here for in my mindset going into the project, I'm not going to waste any more of your time with any further, you know, intros. You know how to support the channel, so I'm just going to leave that up to you. You do that however you see fit. I'm going to do my thing. So we're going to get into this project. The first track is called Understanding. And like I said, this is Anyways by young Nudy. Let's get to it.
Don't play, shot, ride, big Drake, but he like that AK. All type of stakes. Nigga say he try me, know he capping, but that shit no way. Nigga.
So right now, just a few of the things that I'm hearing. First of all, I'm loving the strings in the background. I don't know if that's a sample, if that was actually played by the producer, but the strings are very cinematic, very emphatic and epic. A really interesting way to start the project off. I'm digging the drum patterns. You know, it's that typical like Pierre Bourne style drum pattern, very bouncy, no super hard punchy kick, just a really nice fat 808 to give us that low end. One thing that I do have a little bit of a problem with is that snare that's hitting on the offbeats. You know, it's meant to provide some bounce, and I can understand that. It's being used like a perk and not like a snare. I can understand that. But I think that the snare itself sounds a little bit too harsh. It's a little bit high pitched. It probably would have sounded a little bit better if you used like a wood block or maybe a rim shot, something like that, to really add a little bit more of a heavier sound in the middle frequencies. That really high pitched snare has kind of like a staticky, high pitched, high frequency feeling to it that is a little bit sharp. It's a little harsh. So that's really the only problem that I've got with it so far. But young Nudy is going in, he's doing his thing. Hard delivery as I expected, and it's a really dope listen so far.
Molly, hoe taking, I took you money making, I got real nigga. All type of gangster shit and all type of snakes. Nigga say he try me, know he capping, but that shit no way. Nigga on my block though, I just heard that motherfucker with number snow. I know that a lot.
He also added some other percussion here. I think it's a bongo. You know, I like that 808 pattern where it goes dum 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 dum, but an octave lower. But it's got a really nice bounce to it because it has that, like, it's one note and then a pair of notes and then a pair of notes that are decreasing. It's got a really cool bounce to it, the way that that actually works out paired with the kick that came in towards the end of the track. So I like that. I also like that as the track kind of grew in intensity, they added some more percussion as well. I thought that that was pretty interesting. It definitely gives the sense of progression. It gives us a sense of the track growing in energy and moving forward and not staying stagnant or staying the same thing all the way through. So I thought that that was really dope as well. For the most part, though, I will say that even though we did get that sense of progression, this track does come out to be a little bit long. I get that it's the epic intro to the project, but 4 minutes and 30 seconds isn't really necessary for us to get that kind of like emphatic here it is feeling that a really solid intro kind of brings. So that's really one of the gripes that I have with it, is how long it goes on for. It gets a little bit repetitive, and that snare that they use as a perk that really just sounds a little bit harsh. But, you know, it's not a bad track. Next track is No Go. So already a really interesting little synth. My speaker isn't picking it up very, very well. It's a really cheap speaker, honestly. But I can hear the distortion. I can hear that it's a higher pitched little synth that goes on in the background, paired with that little piano melody that was playing. I think that this is going to be interesting.
Straight up, let me, I
You're gonna have to forgive the background noise, guys. It's Carnival here right now, and so all the crazies are out in the middle of the streets doing a bunch of stunts on their bikes and drinking during the daytime and just being very rowdy. So forgive me for that. There's a really creepy pad going on that I really like. This beat is fire, dude. Yo, the low end. Really digging the energy there, man. So Young Nudy's delivery and his performance really remind me a lot of Young Thug. Not to say that he's biting Young Thug's style, it's just how animated his voice is. It's not just some boring, normal, like regular person voice that's just talking over the beat. It's something that has a little bit more warmth to it. It's something that has a little bit more energy to it. So I like the way that his voice really sounds on this track. I mentioned the pad that's kind of giving us like a creepy, kind of haunted vibe because of the chords that it's playing. It works really, really well with those little shimmering keyboard melodies that are playing. And I think that that little synth is a very nice little touch. Just a little bit of seasoning onto this production. I think it sounds nice. Loving the low end. It all comes together to really hit very, very hard when the beat drops. And that's, who doesn't love a good beat drop? You know what I mean? That's a really nice track. Track 3 is Blue Cheese Salad.
She say boss up, so I drunk the top on that bitch. She was fucking with me when they had shit like a bitch. I live in lavish, going hot, boy, in my pocket full of.
I'm listening to that little lead that's going on, and I'm trying to decide whether my gripe is with the lead or with the 808 pattern, because I think, I truly think that although the lead is a little bit annoying, I think it's with a little EQ, maybe a filter over it, it could work. I think that that lead could work. During different circumstances, I believe that that lead could be turned into something pretty fire. But I really don't enjoy this 808 pattern, man. I think it's a little excessive. I like it when people take it a little easier with the 808s and the kicks. But this one just flat out hits almost on every single beat when it comes in to do its little bass line. I don't know, for me that's just kind of, like I said, excessive. I don't think it sounds great. So paired with that melody that I think could be EQ'd a little bit better, this beat is really not doing it for me.
Don't let me Adderall and then I fuck that whole sleep. Wake that bitch up, grind on it, baby girl, keep working. Right on that phone, baby, have a phone. Bounce on it, baby, act like you want it.
Yeah, you know, flat out, just not for me. That's just not a really good track in my opinion. I've got some problems, some issues with that production. Really, there are certain bars where there are only 2 beats where the 808 isn't hitting. You know, it literally hits every single beat except for 2 of them, and that really is excessive in my opinion. And that little lead just doesn't really do it for me. I think that maybe a low pass filter could be put on there to maybe get rid of some of that more shrill sound that it has. You know what I mean? The higher frequencies kind of pierce your ears a little bit. You know, that might have fixed this. Next is GTA Lifestyle.
You know I'm on block, nigga. You know I'm on block. My Nikes on, my plain t-shirt, the Glock, 30
This is what I'm talking about, man. You hear how everything works together so well? Do you hear the little, like, how am I going to describe this? I'm going to have to find a different word to describe everything. I need a thesaurus. It's time to go Anthony Fantano mode here. So there's this little melody that sounds like it's a guitar that's being played with a few filters over it. That sounds really cool. There's a little keyboard melody that's being played that almost sounds like it's a xylophone. It's got like that little like plucked feeling to it. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like there's a percussive element to the keyboard melody that I think is really, really dope. I'm not necessarily saying that it is a xylophone, but it might be like one of those marimba sounds, like one of those calypso sounds that you can find on Omnisphere or whatever VST that they're using. The melodies are intricate, they're complex, there's a lot of counter melodies, but they're all working together because they've been EQ'd to fit together, and the sound choice was really smart. They chose sounds that worked together. I was listening extra closely to see if the 808 was on key, because for some reason there was one note on there that didn't sound very right to me, but I'm definitely satisfied with the 808 pattern. The kick is knocking, the hi-hats, the claps, everything about this beat is working for me. It's got bounce to it, it's catchy, and I have barely heard Young Nudy rap on this, but I already enjoy this so much more than that last track for those reasons. So, I think it's important to know when you're listening to music, important to be able to identify why you like or dislike certain tracks, what you like or dislike about the production. And that's why I really enjoy pointing this stuff out to you guys, is because maybe it'll help you guys to understand, oh, I like this beat because of this little detail that I hadn't noticed before, but now I hear it. So let me know what you guys think about these sounds that I'm describing to you guys. Yo, this is ridiculous. Yo, there's one melody that's like, and then there's a counter melody that's going, but like an octave higher than that. They play off of each other so well, man. Really, I really can't say enough good things about the production on this track. This is probably my favorite so far. It's been the one that's been the most fun to break down. Young Nudy, I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding what he's saying, I'll be honest. He is kind of mumbling his words, and he's trying to rap really quickly, and that kind of makes it a little tougher to understand what he's saying. But honestly, I'm enjoying this beat so much that I really don't care what he's saying. I already added this track to my playlist, and I'm going to listen to it a bunch of times, so I think it's interesting when you have music like this that falls under hip-hop that doesn't necessarily have to be lyrical. I think it's great. I love this part right here. This beat rides so much, man. I love that song. I love that beat. Love his delivery. Like I said, lyrics are kind of tough to understand, but he had confidence in his delivery. He was emphatic. He was bringing the heat with his flow, and so, that's enjoyable to me. I like that. Next track is a Nudy story.
I started off as a shooter, I ain't say that I was perfect. God bless me with him when I got, he feel like I was worth it. Real, I ain't shit like him. Take care of me and my whole pack, ain't nobody trying to.
I love how simple this melody is, man. Do you hear that? It sounds almost like an organ with a few filters over it, honestly. It's a very interesting pad / keyboard combination. Very ambient, it's very spacey, it's got a whole lot of atmosphere to it. Very subtle melodies going on. Very basic 808 hat and clap pattern. But this is one of those tracks where Young Nudy really focuses on his lyricism, on his storytelling, talking about where he came up, his rise to fame, and things like that. So I feel like this more laid back beat sets a really nice stage for Young Nudy to just kill it. And that's what he's doing. Yeah, man, just basically telling us about his life, a little bit about his story. Makes sense with the title. And like I mentioned, this beat was really perfect for him to do so because it's nice, it's got bounce to it, but it's also laid back enough to put some focus on his lyrics, which are, front and center. There's no, in contrast to GTA Lifestyle, there's no counter melodies. There's not 3 different instruments playing melodies at the same time. It's basically the pad, soft keys, and the rest is just drums, you know what I mean? So I like that Nudy had that awareness to choose this beat for this track. And yeah, next track is Deeper Than Rap. O que você tá fazendo aí? Deita aí. Sossega, papai tá trabalhando. Quietinha. Isso, deita aí. No. Love that. This rides. I like that his ad-libs are very melodic. He's rapping his main vocals. He's rapping and he's not really singing. He's not using too much auto-tune, if any. But his ad-libs are melodic. They add a little bit of a melodic element to his actual performance to go along with the really dope melody that's playing in the beat. And they work in his favor to really make his performance a little more interesting, because when you listen to straight rap and it's just lyrics and no melody to what the person is saying, if the lyrics are interesting enough, you can stay focused on what they're saying. But having some melodies going on, having a singing performance going on in the background will really help us to stay locked in and keep our focus on what he's saying. I think that personally, that might be what he was trying to do. Definitely works. Loving the track so far, loving the energy, really like his emphatic, energetic, confident flow, and definitely really enjoying the production. It rides really, really nicely.
Fuck a little bit. This shit deep in the rub, you on the rub. Gotta make money, them hoes gon' ask for it. That's about Nudy, trying to keep it strap. Talking about rubbing, but that's a rub. And then right here.
I'm hearing this pad or a synth that comes in that swells and cuts out. Really interesting. Very subtle, but having it swell and grow in volume and then cut out adds a little bit more bounce to the beat, because your ear picks up on it whether or not you actually notice it. And having it come in, increase in volume, and cut out, it builds a little bit of rhythm into the melodies of the track, along with the actual rhythmic instruments, the drums. Very cool, man. Really nice. Yo, he really is killing it, man. I like that whoever produced it also kept the bass line relatively simple, because the melodies were the more complex portion. And also, I don't know if the person who was producing it was doing so alongside Young Nudy, with Young Nudy in the studio. When you have the rapper there, you can kind of produce the track around how they're going to be flowing. Whereas when you produce this and then you send it off to them, you really have no idea how to fit your beat around their performance. So that's what I mean when I say I don't know if Young Nudy was there, but if he was, that kind of also makes sense that he would keep the bass line a little more simple, because Young Nudy's flow is very fast-paced, very energetic, very hectic, and having that plus the melodies plus an kind of like hectic bass line would really just get confusing and too chaotic. So I like that simple bass line. Really works well. No, this track is nice. So this is probably one of the more club track songs on the project. Got a very simple melody. I'm not certain that the 808s are on key. My speaker doesn't pick up the low end very, very well, so I'll have to re-listen to that with headphones on to really know. But coming off my speaker, it didn't really sound like the 808s were on key. It's got a really nice hi-hat pattern, I'll give it that. It's got lots of bounce to it. It's got lots of energy. And it's going to have people dancing in the club and things like that for sure. But honestly, it just really wasn't for me, So we're gonna move on to the next track. It's called That's Why. I'm not certain that Young Nudy's delivery or his flow here really works for this kind of slower production. Honestly, I think that the beat is really dope. I think it's got a really nice, smoother vibe to it. It's a little slower, and it needs a slower take. It needs a slower verse. Trying to do that fast-paced, chaotic, hectic, energetic triplet flow, but a little bit slower on this track really isn't going to work so well, and it's going to be a little hard to deliver, honestly. I'll say this. So a lot of people love to criticize the triplet flow. They say it's easy, they say it's lazy writing, they say everybody does it, and it doesn't really belong to any one person anymore because everybody has used it at this point, and they will always criticize it for being the easy way out. You take a trap beat, you throw a triplet flow on there, and it's going to work, it's going to slap, and it's going to be a banger. So they love to criticize it that way, but anybody who has ever tried to spit a verse before and record it in front of a microphone will know just how hard it really is to spit the triplet flow and make it sound good, make it work. Because if you're on a track that is in 4/4 and you are dividing 4 bars of 4 beats per bar into thirds, your words have to fall perfectly on there, or else it's just going to sound like sloppy and messed up. And if you're a little bit off, honestly, the person who is mixing your track might be able to fix that. They can, arrange your verse and chop it up a little bit, move certain words around. But for the most part, for a person who is mixing your track to get your vocals to sound good, your performance has to be at least decent. He can't take a bad performance and work miracles on it. You know what I mean? So it's not as easy as it sounds. And so all of that to say that when you're performing the triplet flow on a track that is slower, it is actually, in my opinion, harder to get it right than it is for you to perform it on a faster level. Because when you're a little off, but the track is fast, the beats hit quicker. And so you're off by less. When you're on a slow track and you're off, the beats come a longer time after or before where your words are supposed to fall. And if that performance is sloppy, it can really ruin a track. So spitting a triplet flow on a track that's a little slower like this isn't really the best way to go, in my opinion. And so that's partially why I think that this track really isn't working for me. I think that the beat is great, but his performance, he either needed to approach it with a different flow or honestly just choose a different beat, because this really isn't meshing well for my ears. This sounds dope. So this part sounds better. Yeah, so he really made me eat my words there, honestly, because he found his flow, he found the pocket, and he was able to consistently hit it throughout the rest of the track. So really, the only part that didn't work for me was the beginning portion of this track, because after a certain point, I would say maybe he starts rapping at about 45 seconds in, I think. So maybe for the first 30 seconds of his actual verse, I could do without. And then after that, he really finds his flow, he finds the pocket, and things really mesh better for me. And so just take everything that I said about it and apply it only to the beginning of his verse, and that's where it will make the most sense. Otherwise, I think it's a great track. I really like it. That's the halfway mark. I'm going to be taking a little break, guys. I need to cool off a little bit, so I'll be back soon.
2 hours later.
All right, had some coffee. We're back, feeling good. Let's get it. Track 9 is No Comprende.
How she gon' fucking don't get no cash? Yeah, I don't understand. How the fuck you boss? None of my bullets. We get money, no discussion. And that.
I think that this production is interesting in that it's very minimalistic, first of all. Right now, I'm not hearing a kick. I'm just hearing a basic hi-hat and clap. And they also have like these really cool like plucked melodies, plucked little synth going on. But right now, the bass line is kind of overpowering everything. I appreciate that there's some distortion on the bass, because that really helps the bass to come across a little better on speakers that are a little cheaper, phone speakers, this little $40 speaker that I have. Right now, it really is too much. It's really overpowering everything, including Young Nudy's vocals.
I ride with a gun, nigga, I already know I ride with two.
It's got some bounce to it, at least.
And how can I front you? I got that feel from the car. I have no fear for no cop or no off. Stay on my business, snitching with no car.
Wow.
Get on my block.
So Young Nudy's performance is great. I think that his flow really helps to add some of that bounce to this beat. And like I said, it is a very minimalistic beat, and not only is it very minimalistic, but the 808 is so overpowering that I really can't bring myself to fully enjoy the track. It's very distracting. There are things that I appreciate, like Young Nudy's flow, very nice. His performance is great. The use of some melodic portions in his verses, really nice. Keep us interested, but that production, there really is just no reconciling this track to myself because of that 808. It's really, really tough. Next track is F Me Mean. We're PG-13 on this channel, or else YouTube takes us down. Yo, that little, okay, I'm hearing an electronic key. I'm hearing some arpeggiated melodies that sound like they could be a guitar. or they could just be a synth that sounds like a guitar, like a stringed instrument. Also sounds really nice. And there is a flute going on as well that sounds incredible. And it's not doing anything too crazy. Really, it's just playing one note and holding it there. But it grounds the rest of the melodies. You know, having it on the root note and then having all the other melodies going on around it. I mean, they do just that. They go on around it. The flute is the center, and all the other little synth melodies and keyboard melodies stay around it. And it really keeps everything just kind of centered. Really digging the 808s and the drum patterns in contrast to the melodies going on the top end. Yeah, the drums are basically just a very simple hat, snare, clap, kick, 808, and they do their thing. They keep things simple, create just enough bounce for young Nudy to really kill it. Those melodies really keep us interested in what's going on in the rest of the track. Really great performance from young Nudy on this one. You know, I mentioned some of the stuff that I really enjoyed about the production earlier on. I think that, like I said, the melodies being surrounding that main flute was really interesting. And I just think that this one was, in general, really well executed. One of the standout tracks so far. One of the best executed, one of the cleanest songs so far. Next track is Influencer.
How did I do it? Bitch, this how I do it. I came from the bottom, bitch, how to do it. I came from the bottom, this how I let it in my nigga pussy, no baby. You fuck with me, baby, hold the block of 80. Don't come from the grave. I be sipping drink, I'm smoking the grave. I feel like Flavor Flav, cause I got the flavor.
So I'm thinking right now, those perks really aren't meshing too well with the rest of the drum pattern because there really is too much going on. When you factor in the hi-hat rolls, the excessive kicks, the complex 808 pattern, and all of the perks and the perk rolls that the producer added, there really is just too much going on, you know, especially also factoring in the melodies going on the top end, and then you've got to add young Nudy's flow over it. There really is just too much rhythmic stuff going on all at once, and it clashes and it sounds a little messy.
Sure, bitch at the heavy metal. I got more money than these niggas. These niggas ain't get it. We blessing that all shoot the shit, but they say it. We bought in the hood, we don't fuck with no trade. You a cap and gown, ain't no rapping, my nigga, we stepping now. Yeah, I'm not no other rapper, send your way to Shaw influence. Glocks on deck, you know influence. I come from the...
Yeah, the highlight of this track, in my opinion, was young Nudy's performance. I think that he is doing a great job at mixing up his flows, his cadences, choosing his rhymes very carefully, placing some internal rhymes to keep his flow really interesting to listen to. So that really was the standout part of this song for me. But like I said, I feel like in the drums there is a little bit too much going on, and that can get a little distracting. You know, so there is that. And also, this track does go on for a little bit too long, standing at 4 minutes long. And that has been the case with a lot of these tracks. 3 minutes and 30 to 4 minutes long has been kind of the norm for this project. And I do feel like, for the most part, when it comes to songs like this, where you're really looking for nice production and for a vibe that is a little too long, but I don't want to say that every single track because that gets repetitive, but I'm saying it now. Still, it's things that we can overlook, you know what I mean? Next track is I Won't Flex. Yeah, this one wasn't really it for me, you know. I really, I like the beat, you know, well enough, but I just don't think that the chorus was really well executed. I think that some of those frequencies are kind of clashing in terms of the melodies going on in the beat and the melody that young Nudy is trying to sing for the chorus. It's really tough to understand him sometimes on this track because of all the processing that they did on his vocals. I would have preferred a little bit more of a human feel for this track, you know, and there really isn't just anything going on this track to really keep me interested, you know what I mean? So this one really just isn't it for me, but we're gonna be moving on to the next track, which is called Anyways. There's a really interesting melody going on.
Whole lot of money, whole lot of diamonds in my necklace. Ooh, Okay.
Yeah, so right here there's a really interesting keyboard melody that just started playing, acting as a counter melody to the very subtle wah-wahs melody that we heard in the beginning of the beat. And it's really interesting. I like that there's two portions to it, a higher pitched portion and then dropping it a few notes also. Definitely very interesting, sounds great, very catchy, you know, and this beat rides, so it's very fun to listen to.
Don't make me spray them, yeah. I feel the middle like a joke, yeah. I just like that hoe, she round the hood. I a nigga went in that room and then they told me, it's okay, I'll keep it cool.
That's the title track. It's very catchy, very well executed, really nice melodies going on in the beat, a very solid, rock solid performance from young Nudy, really interesting cadences, switching up the flows to keep us interested, and really just a very nice, confident performance that really is a blast to listen to. So that's a great track. Next track is No Pretending.
Fucking feces, you piece of shit. On your hoe, it's a go-go. You suck a nigga so got me in my mojo. Hit her from the back. I got baby, we done put some time in. Tell me more us, so I keep grinding.
That's also a very nice track. I'm loving the little counter melodies going on in the lower frequencies. You know, doom, 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 doom is really, really cool. I'm digging the grand piano melodies that are going on as well. Really nice pads and synths, bouncy beat, solid performance from young Nudy. No complaints. Second to last track is Marathon. Something about this production feels very dissonant. Whether it's the siren that might, or the lead that might be detuned a little bit, to whether it's an actual chord that's being played that isn't working very well, something just sounds like it's not tuned correctly. And it's really, really messing up the vibe for my ears. The 808s are too overused. Yeah, this may very well be the worst beat on the project so far. At least from what I'm hearing off my speaker. This may be something that is clashing in mono, which is what my speaker is in, and once I put on my headphones it will sound better. But coming off of this speaker, on this listen, this isn't sounding good. Something sounds like it's off key, the 808s really sound excessive and overused, and something is clashing. Something in the mix sounds muddy and just straight up bad, you know? So I don't know whether it's my speaker or not, but I'm hoping that it isn't. If it really is a matter of something actually clashing in the production, I really can't come back and listen to this, you know? It's just not working for me. But the last track is Do It With The Ellipsis for Mystery.
Take a nigga pet and then I turn to a trapper. Yeah, turn to a trapper, turn it.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to close out the project, and I love the beat. I think that it's really interesting. I love the electronic piano, keyboard melodies. He's made really clever use of those throughout the project. The only gripe I have really with this track is that during the first half, I wish he would have approached it with a different flow. You know, he kind of had like a choppier, slower, like singing approach to it that really just wasn't working so much for me. I really wanted to like it because of how much I enjoyed the production, but it wasn't great, his first verse. The chorus could be a little better as well. It's, I think, too simple, but that second half where he really was rapping and using that typical young Nudy flow really worked with this production. I think it sounded great. It's definitely the better half of the track. But it's a solid song. It's a solid closer for this project. And really, I think that that's the best way to describe this project off of my first listen, is that it's a solid performance from young Nudy. We did get, like I was expecting some cool beats, some really cool vibes, some confidence coming from young Nudy, some really nice performances. And for the most part, that's what we get. You know, we get some really cool melodies, we get some very interesting bass lines, we get a whole lot of bouncy beats. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't for one reason or another. Maybe it's an instrument that's clashing in the production, maybe it's a sloppy flow from young Nudy. But I would say that for the most part, the vast majority of these songs are solid. You know, they're really fun listens. It's a fun album to listen to, you know, so put it on, shuffle it, and yeah, just enjoy it. Whether you're listening to it while you're riding around in your car, or whether you're, you know, at work and you're able to listen to music while you work. This is a fun album to listen to. It's definitely easy to kick back to and just enjoy yourself while you listen to it. You know, a lot of fun tracks on here. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot. Yeah, I really don't remember what else I was going to say. Probably I was going to comment on how interesting I thought a lot of these melodies were. I really just wanted to highlight that. The melodies for a lot of these beats were really great. They were approached with various different instruments, counter melodies, playing around with the rhythm, and most of the times, the more complex the melodies were, the simpler the drum patterns and the 808s were. And I like that the producers were aware enough to do that, you know, and keep things from being too chaotic, too hectic. So I just really wanted to emphasize that, show some love to that. And comment what you think about this project and the video and the commentary in the comment section below. Support the channel any way that you see fit. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I will be back in another video very soon. Until then, stay safe as always. Peace out, guys.